Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I titled this message, Those Secret Behaviors That Cause Harm. Those Secret Behaviors That Cause Harm. Today, we are going to focus on the psychological perspective when one is going through. I know oftentimes we talk about the spiritual side of things, but we do have individuals that are struggling with behaviors that they are having a tough time to stop. So, this is the right message for the right time for someone who everyone's told you that what you're doing is not right, but yet you continue to do it. There are those individuals that no one knows what you do, but you do know, and you know that it is causing you difficulty at home, at the workplace, and you're tired of lying and covering up and being secretive. And we've talked about the family history, the generational issues on this channel, where a lot of times it's not just that person in the family, but as quiet as it's kept, there were those who came before that person. And at that point, that is where the mental challenges show up that no one wanted to talk about back in the day. Okay? The fact that people are willing to spend the time to think about these things and really want to get a grip is awesome. Is awesome. God is definitely on the move because he puts that in you to want to do what is right. I'm not going to get into a full Bible study, but I can't resist when it comes to giving some scriptures about some things. We know that Paul, he had his share of issues where he was struggling with that unexplainable challenge that he was going through. So we know that it wasn't easy for him, and at times he was trying so very hard to just fight that thorn in his flesh. So he talks about it over in Romans 7:14 through 25. He says, "For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing." Okay? Now that's transparency right there. He does what he can, right? In terms of trying to break away from this sinful nature of his. For I do not do the good I want to do. So it's in him to want to do good. But some of you know all too well, the evil, those things that he doesn't want to do, well, Paul admits, I keep on doing. I keep on doing. Some folks are in counseling right now, but they tell the counselor lies because they know that they're going to be held accountable. But that's the whole reason why you're going to counseling, is because you do want to be held accountable. So stop the lying. Draw a line in the sand and say, I'm going to let this person who is holding me accountable know that I've fallen away, that I'm doing things I shouldn't do. We struggle. All of us have our share of struggles, whether small, whether large, whether for some people, that's good, I don't know what you're talking about. And others, that's evil. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. You see, whatever we label, the bottom line is it's something that we're uncomfortable with. We don't like it. And we have to work every day to stop doing whatever that might be. Okay? Romans 7:25 says, "Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord." There is deliverance for someone listening. There is. When you get around certain circles, of course, misery loves company. Of course, people are going to encourage you to continue to sin. People are going to say that that's okay, that's all right. I had to get away from people like that. I mean, those type of circles are on the internet. They're off the internet. They're people who you grew up with. They're people who you party with. I don't know what you're talking about. It's okay. Look at me. And some folks, yeah, we have looked at you, and we know that what you do is not good. I mean, some folks, they were supposed to go to the doctor's office and get some treatment for some things and still haven't. So, of course, misery sitting over in a corner, got all sorts of aches and pains, dramas and traumas. Of course, she wants you to come over there and keep doing what you know you shouldn't be doing. The bus is not going to be over in that neck of the woods. We want you to get on the bus, and we want you to walk with the one true God. We're going to get into the psychology of this. And it's disheartening, I'm going to tell you right now, for some people, because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And no matter how much you talk to them about, you know that you can rise above this. Well, even Paul, you just, read about Paul. But the fight, this is what we're talking about. You've got to fight the temptation. You've got to resist the devil and he will flee. You see, you've got to take a stand and not cave in. Every day, we're going to keep fighting this thing. And if you can't fight alone, you've got to get professional help. There's an article on Psychology Today, one of my favorite websites, psychologytoday.com. The article is entitled Understanding Self-Destructive Dysregulated Behaviors. So we're going to learn another new word today. And this was, the focus on this particular article is on alcoholism, but we can learn so much from this article on other habits. Peggy Lee Wupperman, PhD, wrote the article. It was reviewed by Gary Drevich, posted December 6, 2015. Understanding self-destructive, dysregulated behaviors. Why some people find certain behaviors almost impossible to resist. Okay? So this goes beyond the chocolate cake that you see or the pound cake. Oh, you see, just one more piece. Just one more piece. Oh, I'll take one more drink. It's interesting how back in the day, how they used to say things like, one more drink for the road. And then later on, they finally realized, those individuals that lost family members, that, no, that's not a good thing to say. You see, the things that were at one point okay, and it's all right, they get out of control. And then finally somebody says, we need to regulate this through laws, through consequences. You see, it's all good until it isn't. So you've worked hard trying to fight up against this thing. And you may have told yourself these things, according to Psychology Today. I want to, first of all, well, let me do this. I'm going to skip past that. And I want to get into the truth, because this is what this channel's about. Self-destructive or dysregulated behaviors provide relief or even pleasure in the short term, but ultimately get in the way of living a life that feels satisfying and fulfilling. Okay, so we have a definition here. They provide relief. So if you are the one on the outside looking in, wondering why this person continues to drink alcohol, why this person continues to look at things they have no business looking at that are wreaking havoc on your relationship, why this person is out here in these streets doing what they're doing, why they keep hiding and telling lies about any number of things. Okay. The dysregulated behaviors provide relief or even pleasure in the short term. They keep doing these things because they're getting something out of these bad habits that some of you all call, right? Terrible things, destructive things. But I just don't understand how a person, look, unless you are that person that's walking in their shoes, and even when you do have some understanding, your mind keeps wanting to push back against it. Why? Because you want out of that thing. I realized that years ago when I kept saying, I don't understand. And then I would see something else. And I just don't get it. And I would find out something else. And this just doesn't leave the relationship. Okay? Leave the relationship. The person obviously has a problem. I'm not going to keep arguing with this person, keep going over there to the church with tears in my eyes, losing out on so much because eventually their secrets start to roll out and now they're impacting your life. I got to do something. And so God finally released me. He finally released me. Because, first of all, I had no business in the relationship to begin with. So, there you have it. A lot of times, you suffer the consequences because you were disobedient. It wasn't like you didn't know. Because eventually you do find out. And I'm talking to those individuals who are watching some of these individuals with their dysregulated behaviors. You're going to the Lord for discernment, for revelation. You have already been there, done it, seen the movie. But for some, maybe not you, listener, but for some, they know that they're being disobedient and they stay in it. And that was my issue years ago. Oh, you knew you were disobedient. Yes, long before this channel had gotten started. I knew that I was being disobedient. But the thing was that I got myself in a bit of a pickle because I couldn't get out of it. When the time came for me to get out of it, I chose not to. So, like an inmate in jail, I had to sit that thing out. I had to do my time. You see, because when God opens up the doors, and there are seasons where God will open up the doors for you to get out of a situation. Some of you all know all too well what I'm talking about. And you either get out when you can, or the doors close and you got to sit that thing out for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 some years. A woman, I saw a video not that long ago, she posted about a year ago on YouTube, said that she didn't get out of her relationship for 24 years. And we can't say that she never had an opportunity for an exit, because she did. But I know what happens. You go head on and you feed into some things that provide you some relief. That person providing you a bit of relief, a little pleasure. But then in time, though, all of that dysregulated behavior ends up giving you a false illusion of satisfaction, and then you end up experiencing the side effects. This is what it looks like. These dysregulated behaviors: alcohol and drug abuse, binge eating, compulsive computer gaming, self-injury, smoking, chronic avoidance, or a host of other behaviors that feel helpful in the moment but harmful over time. So it's not enough that you're dealing with that other issue, the root cause possibly of why you have the dysregulated behaviors, but you're continuing on doing things that are ultimately destroying you for a sense of temporary relief. Oh, I'm coming where somebody is. We know your secrets. God is on the move, my goodness. The article goes on to say people who struggle with dysregulated behaviors can differ dramatically, but tend to share some common traits. The following description is oversimplified. It might not fully apply to you, but it provides a general idea. Here we go. If you struggle with dysregulated behaviors, you probably were born with a tendency to feel emotions a little more strongly than other people do, right? So some of you mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, that child, Lord Jesus, I remember, was so emotional, so sensitive, cried a lot, got angry. Woo, I had to whoop that little tail sometimes because that baby just would not listen, would not do too much of anything. Okay. So some people know the history on some folk, okay? And so it isn't any wonder why the person with the dysregulated behaviors is called out on some things. Because ever since you was little, I knew there was something wrong with you, okay? Now, this business of emotions, right, being emotional and all this other stuff, the article says that's not a negative trait. However, being around certain family members and friends who, as we like to say every now and again, ignorant, okay, or ignorant, they said all that was negative. But if you have strong emotions, hey, I'm going to validate you. That's not a negative trait. The article validates you as well. All right. In fact, you are likely to be more creative and or empathic. All right. So, I tend to be a bit emotional at times, but I'm more creative and empathic. All right. Unfortunately, you also may have grown up in an adverse or invalidating environment. Adverse environments may include, all right, here we go. We're going back to the child abuse signs, video, audio, I should say, on this channel. So these are the types of things that you may have grown up with if you are the one that's struggling with the dysregulated behaviors, or you're just sitting back listening. Extreme experiences such as physical abuse, neglect, or continuous criticism. Maybe moms and dads were this way, growing up in a household with older peers. So, you're in this adverse or invalidating environment, according to Psychology Today. All right. Routine experiences with family members who discourage expression of emotions. Shut that noise up. Be quiet. I don't want to keep hearing from you. I got something for you. That type of thing. Some of you all know all too well. Routine experiences with family members who discourage expression of emotions or use dysregulated behaviors to cope with their own emotions. So, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Somebody in the family is relieving themselves, maybe not in the same way that some of you listeners are, but they are. They may not even tell you about their alcohol issues. They may not even tell you about the fact that ever since they came back around the family during holiday events, they got triggered again. And so now they're back to binge eating, or they're back to their drug use, or they're back to their smoking. Okay? But they're back to something. Some folks, no, they didn't go back, but they're being falsely accused of that sort of thing. And that is a problem, a huge problem, because God, when He is working with someone and they're doing the right thing, you do not put out false accusations. You're on the side of the enemy. And so God has a way of dealing with people who do that sort of thing. So that's just a side note. Another thing that you may have grown up with, or others, experiences outside the home, such as bullying at school, abuse by another caretaker, routinely being excluded by other children. Wow. You stutter. You don't focus. You don't listen. You're the bad kid. We don't want to be around you. You're the big kid. You're the skinny kid. You have a weird smell. You wear the same clothes every day. You got bumps all over your face. Okay? Some of us know all too well. And so, the children don't want to be around you. And for some people, they never shook that. They're 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years old. And the things that brought them comfort back in the day, whether they were 8 years old, 10 years old when they started doing it, 12 years old, 15 years plus years old. I told you a relative years ago, he told me, he's not above ground, but he did tell me, he said that I started abusing alcohol when I was 8 years old. The man was sharing this at 60 some years old. That was his dysregulated behavior. We've got words now for this, right? He was bringing relief to himself by drinking and drinking until he doesn't think about whatever ruminating thoughts were showing up for the day. You see? So, Jesus, I just feel like we need to pray about this right now, but I'm going to keep pressing forward through this. So the strong emotions we've established back in the day, strong emotions. And we were put in situations that were painful. Okay? Sometimes unbearable. And so there are those who tried and tried and tried some more to turn off the pain. I'm just going to try not to feel whatever it was that was hurting you. I'm just not going to think about it. That is not healing, friend. That is not healing. People are doing everything they possibly can to keep from having to sit down and talk with someone. They're doing everything they possibly can to avoid seeing the doctor. They're doing everything they possibly can to keep from being prayed for, to keep from being held accountable once again, because somebody already knows about the dysregulated behavior. You see? And that's where the enemy wants you. The enemy wants you to stay in that space where I can manage this. No, you can't. No, you can't. You look in the mirror and your body tells you you can't. You look under the bed. You look under some clothes in a drawer or a locked cabinet somewhere or safe. And that's where the issue is that you can't seem to manage. My God. Whew. So I'm going to stop right there. We're going to do a part 2. Because I want someone to take the time out right now and think about some things. I want you to think about them. And I want you to come up with a plan on how you're going to deal with what we talked about. And for the one who you know someone like this, you might feel motivated to go in that room one more time and sit down and talk to that person about getting some help. You might be motivated to want to go, grab their stash and go, I know about this. But if you feel that way, have a plan. If you feel like this person is going to attack you, you might want to have a third party in the room with you. Or you might want to just create a quiet exit plan away from this person because you're tired of feeling this pain of knowing that they're self-destructing one day at a time. So, planning time, thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it in terms of getting some help and getting someone some help or giving someone an ultimatum or some consequences or whatever else. So, do tune in for part 2.